Finally, final RMD regulations are here. Hey everyone, Adam Bergman here, tax attorney and founder of IRA Financial. And today's Adam Talks, finally, the IRS did it. After almost 5 years, they figured out how required minimum distributions are going to work if you inherit an IRA or a Roth IRA, depending on whether you are a eligible beneficiary or not. So today's podcast, I'm going to explain and summarize these rules so it makes sense. I'm going to compartmentalize them into two categories: whether you are a eligible beneficiary, whether you're not an eligible, and then whether the person that is leaving you the money is your spouse, not your spouse, or how old they are. And that's going to give you the answers on what you can do with the money in terms of how many years you get to keep those funds in the IRA, or how many years are you forced to pull them out. So finally, July 19th was the day, 2024, almost 5 years, they finally released regulations. Now, gotta wonder what they've been doing for the last 4.5 years. This stuff is not that complicated. Only a few questions to answer. So what are required minimum distributions? They're RMDs when you turn 73 years old and you pass away. Okay. You generally, if you don't pass away, so when you hit 73 years old, you have to start taking required minimum distributions. If you have a pre-tax IRA, pre-tax 401k, 457B, 403B, you move that into an IRA, pre-tax IRA at 73, you have to take what's called required minimum distributions. If you have a Roth IRA or Roth 401k, there are no required minimum distributions, none, which is another advantage of having a Roth IRA or Roth 401k. Why? Because the money stays in the plan longer, and it takes advantage of the power of compounded returns, which means your money will grow faster because it's not subject to taxation. Okay. But if you have a pre-tax IRA, pre-tax 401k, or other defined contribution, defined benefit plan, you're going to have to take a required minimum distribution. Generally, it's about 3% of the account value. And account value means cash, assets like stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, real estate. You add it all together and you do an IRA RMD and a 401k RMD. You add up all your IRAs, you add up all your 401ks, and then you take around 3%. And there's a lifetime expectancy table that will give you the exact percentage that you just apply to the value of your IRA. And that's something that we can help you if you're a client of IRA Financial. So that's the easy part. This was the question when Secure Act 1 was passed in December 2019. They passed new rules for required minimum distributions. Now, they started including terms like an eligible beneficiary or a non-eligible beneficiary, and then added this concept of 10 years. So before the Secure Act 1.0, essentially, if you received an IRA from a spouse, same rules apply today. You literally would just change the IRA into your name. Okay. And then it would become yours, and your age would determine whether required minimum distributions were required or not. The big question was, what happens to an IRA left to a non-spouse? Brother, sister, aunt, uncle, cousin, friend, child. What happens? In the past, before Secure Act 1.0, before December 2019, you basically would be able to stretch it out over your life expectancy. So God forbid my mom, my dad died, they leave me an IRA, and I'm 40 years old. You go to my lifetime expectancy table, you'll put 40, which will allow me to take smaller amounts each year instead of if I was 70 or 80, right? Because then my time expectancy would be compressed. So you were able to do what's called a stretch IRA, which basically would be the youngest beneficiary. You could stretch it over a long period of time, keep more money in the retirement plan. That was the play. But what happened is the government said, you know what? We need some tax revenue because we got to pay for all these tax cuts, like individual tax cuts, corporate tax cuts, and all other tax benefits that were provided to special interests. This is one way to capture some tax revenues. We're going to stop the stretch. So we're just not going to let people stretch it over their lifetime in a lot of cases. So they included these concepts called eligible designated beneficiaries and non-eligible. And basically what they want to do is, if you are a non-eligible designated beneficiary, you have 10 years to pull all the money out, but you got to take it out pro rata. Each year, you got to take out a little bit, and then by year 10, it has to be gone. So it's a pro rata amount each year over 10 years. So if you have 100K, it's, let's say, 10,000 for 10 years, give or take the appreciation. So that was a new concept that was introduced by Secure Act 1.0. But the reason it's taken them 4.5 years to come up with the final regs is there was one question. And basically the main question was this: do we let people take it over 10 years, like pro rata, 10% each year, for example, over 10 years? Or could they just wait to pull it after year 9? By the end of year 10, it has to be depleted. Are we going to give people that much control, or are we going to force them to take distributions over a 10-year period? That answer basically took them 4.5 years to come up with. I don't know why. If it was me, I would just say, hey, everyone has 10 years. Pull out as little or as much as you need to, but by the end of year 10, there's got to be 0 left in your pre-tax retirement account. They didn't do that. Why? Because that would just be too easy. So the basic rule is this: if you are a non-eligible designated beneficiary, which we'll get into the definition, most people will not satisfy that definition. Okay, so your parent leaves you money. You're going to have 10 years to pull that money out, but you have to take it out pro rata each year. You can't wait till the end of year 10. It's got to be a little bit each year. Okay, that's the basic rule. Now, here are the exceptions. There's something called an eligible designated beneficiary, and that is someone that is the surviving spouse, right? Because they'll put it in their name. Someone who is a minor child under 21, a disabled or chronically ill, an individual who is not more than 10 years younger. So a sibling, let's say my sister is 2.5 years younger than me. If I, God forbid, pass and leave it to her, she would be an eligible designated beneficiary. So this is how it works. If you inherited an IRA and you are an eligible designated beneficiary, meaning you're the spouse, you are a minor, you're, God forbid, disabled, chronically ill, or you're within 10 years of the person's age, and that person who died is under 73, they haven't taken RMDs yet, then you have 10 years. You basically can do 10 years, or you can do it over your life expectancy, which is what most people would do because you'd be able to stretch it out, right? So they're basically saying if you are an eligible designated beneficiary, that 10-year rule I talked about prior, where you have to take a little bit over 10 years, that doesn't apply automatically. You basically can stretch it over your life expectancy or just do less and do the 10-year rule, which, why would you do that? And if the participant that died was already taking RMDs, meaning they were over 73, then you basically can do the longer of life expectancy of you. So you can kind of stretch it out. So if you're an eligible designated beneficiary, number one, the person that dies is under 73, then you could choose between life expectancy, which you would do, or 10 years. If the person that died was already taking RMDs, then the beneficiary, you, can take RMDs consistent with the longer of their life expectancy or yours. And you would do yours because you'd be able to stretch it out. So you're getting some advantage to being an eligible designated beneficiary. Okay. If you're not an eligible designated beneficiary, you're ineligible, essentially. If the person that was taking the RMDs, okay, when they died, if they've begun taking the RMDs, meaning they're over 73, you have to do it pro rata over 10 years, as I mentioned. If the person was under 73, they have not taken their RMD, and you're not an eligible beneficiary, you have 10 years to play around, meaning you don't have to take it out over 10 years. You can wait to the end of 10 years to deplete it. So this is the interesting part. That's why I wanted to break it down between eligible and ineligible. So if you are an eligible, meaning you are a child, that's the common scenario, right? You're not within the 10 years. You're not a surviving spouse. It's a child, right? God forbid your mom or dad dies. They leave you the IRA, and you're the child. What do you have? If your parent was under 73 years old, then you have 10 years to pull it out. You can wait to the end. You can do a little, whatever you want. You don't have to do a pro rata. You're free. If your parent, in this example, or the person was over 73, you're going to have to do the pro rata 10 years. Okay. So again, if the person that died was over 73 or was already taking the RMDs, you got to do it 10 years pro rata. If the person that died was under 73 of not taking the RMDs yet, you can wait until the end of year 10 to deplete. You don't have to do it pro rata. And then if you're an eligible designated beneficiary, meaning a surviving spouse, a minor child, chronically ill, or someone within 10 years of the person that died, if the person that died was under 73 and had not taken the RMDs, then you can choose between their life expectancy and yours and stretch it out. And if the person, on the other hand, that died and you're an eligible designated beneficiary who was over 73 and was already taking RMDs, then you could take the RMDs consistent with their life expectancy or yours. Okay. So if the person had not already taken it, you can do life expectancy or 10 years. If the person already was taking it and you're an eligible designated beneficiary, you can do their life expectancy or yours. Okay, so you're getting a little bit of a benefit as an eligible designated beneficiary to stretch. Now, the one thing of interest, if you're under 21, you don't have to take RMDs until you reach the age of 21. So God forbid someone dies and leaves you an IRA and you're under 21, you're an eligible designated beneficiary. You have those choices between 10 years and life expectancy. You actually don't have to make that choice until you hit 21 years old. Okay, so that's really it. Now, Roth IRAs is simple. It basically follows the traditional IRA for someone who died, who hasn't had to take RMDs. Okay, so in the case of a Roth IRA, if the owner dies before the age of 73, you're basically subject to the same rules of an IRA. If the owner died before the required beginning date, which is 73, you basically have 10 years. Okay, so remember, Roth IRAs don't have RMDs. So you could give if you're over 73 and you have a Roth IRA, which is an after-tax account, you don't have to take RMDs, even when you hit 73. You do with a pre-tax IRA. If you die and you leave the Roth IRA to your spouse also does not have to take RMDs when he or she reaches 73. But if you leave a Roth IRA to a non-spouse, a child, friend, brother, sister, there are RMDs, but the person has 10 years to pull those funds out, not pro rata. They can wait to the end, or they can do a little bit, whatever they choose. It's up to them, totally self-determined. There's no tax on the distributions, but they have to deplete it within 10 years. Okay, no tax, but they have to deplete. And that's only if it's inherited from a non-spouse. Whereas again, traditional IRAs, there's going to be tax, but the difference in how long you get to hold the funds in the retirement account, number one, depends if you're an eligible designated beneficiary or if you're not eligible, and then how old the person was who was designating the IRA to you, under 73 or over 73. If they are under 73 and you're eligible, you basically can do 10 years or their life expectancy. If they were over 73, you can choose between their life expectancy and your life expectancy. If you're an ineligible beneficiary, meaning it's a parent-child relationship because it's greater than 10 years, if the person hasn't taken the RMDs yet, meaning they're under 73, you could follow the Roth rules, meaning you have 10 years to play around. If they're over 73, then you got to do the pro rata 10 years. Okay, and that's really the difference. So think about it. If you are an ineligible beneficiary, it's either 10 years pro rata or wait to 10 years. And the determination is whether the person that is giving you the IRA is under 73, meaning you have 10 years to play around. If they were over 73, you got to do it the pro rata. And then the eligible, you basically can choose between life expectancies, depending on how old the person was that died that's leaving you the IRA. So that's kind of it. There's obviously some other stuff in the final regs, but this is the core question that took them almost 5 years to answer, 4.5 years to be exact. I don't know why. I would have just given everyone 10 years to pull it out. It's so much easier. Who cares if you're over 73, under 73, eligible, not eligible? Like, who cares? Why make things so complicated? I agree. If you're under 21, just stretch that out. Let them wait until they're 21 to pull it out after 10 years. But who needs all this aggravation? And the regs are so long. There's so many multiple revenue rulings they've had to submit over the last 4 years. I can't imagine how much wasted money and time was taken and undertaken by the IRS to come up with these rules when all they have to say is, you got 10 years, take it, it's your choice, it's your IRA, you were designated as the beneficiary, pull it out all in year 1, a little bit in year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, wait till the end of year 10, just deplete it by the end of year 10. That would have been easy. I could have wrote these regs in 1 page, we'd all been done. We would have saved millions and millions and millions of dollars of fees and salaries to people. But it's the government. And the way it goes is if you get your job done too quick, guess what happens? You're out of a job. So there's no incentive to work quickly in government because there's a risk that once you actually complete the task, then, hey, do we need this budget for this assignment? Because the assignment's finished. It's backwards. No one's doing any type of auditing. It's ridiculous that it's taken 4.5 years to come up with these regs. And the regs are not very different than what was submitted back in the Secure Act 1.0 in December 2019. Literally, the only big question was this whole 10-year play, and they made it even more complicated by putting all these scenarios in for eligible and ineligible, under 73, over 73. Stupid and pointless, but that's what we're dealing with. So there you have it. That's how the final RMD rules work. We got a little bit of clarity, a lot more confusion. Hopefully the confusion is now a lot less after you've listened to this podcast. But if you have questions, don't worry. If you're a client of IRA Financial, just contact us. We'll get you all the info you need. We'll help you calculate the RMDs. We're the best at this. It's in our name. It's what we do. We are the leaders in the IRA world. So thank you for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, truly appreciate it. I'll also write a blog on this, so you can check it out on our website or just Google it. Hopefully it will pop up. But hopefully this made some sense of a very unnecessary, complex set of rules that just should have been dealt with 4.5 years ago in a much, much easier fashion. So thanks. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. Hope you're enjoying your summer and everything's going great. So now that you know the RMD rules, go back to enjoying the beach or golfing or doing whatever you like to do in the summer. Thanks again. I'll see everyone again next week. Ciao.